journalist. She mentioned Solohead Beg, and that's where we turn to next. On a quiet country road in West Tipperary today, people gathered to mark the exact centenary of the Solohead Beg ambush at 12:45. A centenary bus snaked its way through the Premier counties since early morning, visiting historical sites of interest to the War of Independence, and then eventually arriving at Solohead Beg. And Drivetime's Graham Clifford was on board. He spoke to historian and organiser John Connors.
We have people from all over here with us today. We stopped first of all in Kilfeakle, the burial place of Sean Treacy. So we're here at the birthplace of Dan Breen, and our intention is to be at the site of the Solohead Beg ambush at the exact centenary at 12:45 when the first shots of the War of Independence were fired. I always believe when we come to Solohead Beg, we come to the cradle of our independence. If Solohead Beg hadn't happened, things would have certainly evolved differently. We can't say how it would have evolved, but we can say for certain things would not have panned out the way that they eventually did. So it is, it's a day, I suppose, too, as a Tipperary man, I take pride in what we contributed to that time.
John Flannery was also on the bus today, another organiser with the group.
I mean, we try and present the events of that period in a non-judgmental way and in an inclusive way. I mean, we can't deny, we'll say, the events of our history. Whether we like it or not, we're a country that was born of blood. And I think we have to respect the blood of all sides that give us our independence that we have. We have to take things into context at the time very much. I mean, Europe was after coming to a terrible war. Life might have been particularly cheapened by that war. The soldiers were heroes. That was the bottom line. And I think the men of the day felt that they were soldiers embarking on a journey and that they had to do what they had to do.
And many were young men.
Many were young men, and remember that none of the men that stood in that ditch in Solohead on the day had ever, had military training. Who knows how they reacted on the day? Who can say what way the policemen reacted? Did they instinctively just go for the rifles? We don't know. Ultimately, 2 men lay dead. 2 men had their lives shattered, the 2 council workers. And some of the members of the raiding party too carried scars of that for their lives too.
Well, it's a bit of a wild day in West Tipperary today. I've joined with the bus in Donahill, the final resting place and also birthplace of Dan Breen. He and others, of course, involved in Solohead Beg, immortalised in the song The Galtee Mountain Boy. Whilst here, I met some of Dan Breen's relations.
1916.
Bernie O'Doherty, and I'm grandniece of Dan Breen's. This is my father, Anthony Ryan, who lives in Dan Breen's house. Yes, my mother was his niece.
Your mother was his niece?
Yes.
And so tell me, is this a special day for the family?
It's a very special day, a very special weekend for all of the family. It certainly is, yeah, for everybody.
And even I was just up to the cemetery, and there's people coming and going.
Yes, actually they've been coming and going here for the last couple of weeks, knowing that it's the 100th anniversary. So very special event for the country and for Donahill and Solohead Beg in particular.
And tell me, is this the house that Dan would have lived in? Or was there an older one? No,
this is the house.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm living here now.
And you must have been busy with buses like this, popping by in cars.
Oh, pictures. Of late there now, they had a man and woman down from Tyrone here yesterday.
And then we made our way on the bus to Solohead Beg to arrive just before the centenary. At all times today, speakers spoke of the loss of both RIC men, James MacDonald and Patrick O'Connell, and the desperate impacts for their families. Tim Crowley from Clonakilty, who organises events to the memory of Michael Collins, was on board, and he explained why glorification can muddy and confuse accurate historical analysis.
I would have a big interest in the policemen who died at Solohead, the two of those men as well, and their stories. And if they were in that job 10 years before, they would have lived through or worked through their careers and drawn their pensions, but they happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time in history, and they ended up being two victims, if you like, in their own way. And I think it's no point in looking at history or looking at these centenaries, but you have to look at every side of the story to understand what happened. And even though you mightn't agree politically or whatever way with a certain actions, you have to learn why those actions took place, and you have to look at it from the other person's point of view as well. You know, they used to say, was it the Indians? They used to say the Native Americans, you can't understand somebody else unless you stand in their moccasins, and I think the same thing applies to Irish history.
At the site of the ambush, Treacy Hogan, grandson of Sean Hogan, spoke of why it's important to commemorate and remember those involved in the struggle for Irish independence. And he also believes that more could have been done by central government to commemorate events at Solohead Beg 100 years on.
These guys are feted now as heroes and controversial heroes, if you like, kind of Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid guys on the run. But they were only really young farm boys at 17, and they didn't seek fame, if you like. They didn't plan to start a revolution, really. They ambushed a consignment of gelignite. They went on the run, and then they became famous, I suppose, for Solohead Beg, and also for Knocklang, where my grandfather was rescued, as I said. And weekends like this kind of bring it all back to the family. It makes me proud, actually, to see so many people here today and yesterday as well. I mean, this was basically organised by a local parish community in Solohead Beg, guys like John Connors as well, who organised the tour and has us here at the Solohead Beg Monument today.
And that was Graham Clifford reporting for us there from Solohead.